Hello my friend, and welcome to this painting tutorial. In the last videos I showed you how I painted the Watchers and the Striders from the core box of Horizon Zero Dawn, the board game. Today we'll focus on one of the human hunters that come with this box as well. Here you can see all four of them cast in brown plastic. I already mounted them onto old paint pots using some blue tack. Now it's much more comfortable to hold and manipulate them while painting. Here I gave all of them a coat of grey primer. And now let's grab the first one and give it some paint. What we have here is a Nora Marksman. No, it's not Aloy herself. The humans from the core box are unnamed characters. But of course, all members of the Nora tribe share a common aesthetics. On the last pages of the rulebook that comes with the core box, we can find a picture that gives us an impression how the figure could be painted. And indeed, I'll try to paint it based on the example of this picture. Let's start with the clothes. To give them a base color, I'm going to use this light tan that slightly tends to green. Using this color, I'm painting all the cloth parts on the model. After that, I'm going to use a darker brownish green to give all the darker parts of the clothes their base color. So here I'm painting the lower part of the outfit as well as all the leather parts on the legs and arms. According to the picture in the rulebook, the green part of the outfit has also a rounded, even darker area. To paint it, I'm using a dark green color. With that, I'm carefully freehanding the round shape on the front and on the back side. Speaking of freehands, I'll try to paint some bluish lines onto the lighter parts of the outfit that resemble the circle pattern you can see on the example. For that purpose, I'm using a dark turquoise paint, well diluted with water, so that it flows easily from the brush. Now I'm carefully painting the lines of the pattern. That's the result. I also freehanded a thin dotted line of tan color to separate the two green areas on the lower part of the outfit and to imitate a seam. Now let's finish the base coloring of the outfit parts. As you can see on the example, the lower part of the tan colored area of the outfit is gradually darker than its upper part. I'm going to create this effect as well. To achieve it, I'm using some of the brownish green paint that I already have on my palette, quite generously diluted with some airbrush thinner, so that I get a very thin paint or a glaze. I take some of it onto my brush, put the brush in the lower area that I want it to be darker, and slightly paint with it in an upwards motion, so that most of the glaze will stay in the lower parts. When the paint is dry, the result looks like this. Now it's time to base color the brownish parts, that means the leather and the wood. According to our example picture, they should be painted in a quite reddish brown. Since I don't have a ready-to-use paint of exactly that color, I'm going to mix it using a rich brown and a reddish rust color. Since I'm using a wet palette, I can be sure that also this mixture will remain fresh and usable all the time as long as I need it. With this color, I'm now painting all the brown parts. Here all those parts are done. Now onto the metal pieces of the miniature that we can find on the legs and on the bow. I'm going to use a light grey color with just a hint of brown in it to carefully paint those small details. I'm also using the light grey color to paint the fur parts of the miniature. At the rim of the clothes, and on the shoulder. Besides the greenish and brownish colors, the appearance of the Nora is quite distinct because of their use of a vivid blue. I'm going to use some Prussian blue to base color all the blue details. After the blue parts are done, there's still the skin and hair not yet painted. To give the skin its base color, I'm going to use a quite dark skin color that we will light up in further steps. Here the skin is done, as well as the hair that I painted using a leather brown color. Now all parts of the miniature received their respective base color, and we can proceed with a wash to enhance the contrast. For that purpose I'm going to use the Quick Shade Strong Tone by the Army Painter in almost all areas of the model, except for the skin parts and the hair. Here I'm going to use a more reddish wash, designed for shading skin colors. Let's start with the skin wash. And continue with the quick shade in all of the remaining parts of the miniature. This has to dry now thoroughly, so we'll give it the necessary amount of time to do so. That's the look of our marksman after the washes are dry completely. You can see that the wash created nice shadows in the recessed areas of the model, enhancing the contrast. But it also dulled down all the colors, so that we'll have to spend some time to lighten them up again. I'm going to start with the skin areas. Besides the skin tone I already used as a base color, I'll also use a lighter version of it and a quite pinkish one. Using all of these colors, I'm going to create quite a variety of mixtures so that I can paint the skin in a gradient from the most dark to the most light areas. After many steps of applying my mixtures, the skin tone looks like this. Now I'm focusing on the hair. Again, I'm going to use mixtures of paint starting from the brown base color and gradually mixing some reddish rust color and some orange color into it. Here the original color is reapplied onto the raised parts of the hair sculpt. Here you can see me applying a lighter version of the color, here an even lighter one, and here comes the lightest color containing brown, rust and orange. After some time, the hair looks like this. Let's paint the lighter part of the outfit. Again, I'm starting with the 10 base color, gradually mixing some off-white into it to lighten it up. Here you can see me painting the raised areas with the original 10 color, carefully avoiding the recessed areas where the wash has created nice shadows. Here I'm lightening up even smaller parts with a mixture out of the original 10 color and some off-white. After the upper part of the outfit is done, we can now focus onto the lower, the green area. And again, I'm going to start with the base color and lightening it up step by step. This time I'll mix the light gray into the green. To paint the brownish parts, I'm going to use the original brown mixture I created as a base color, step by step lightening it up by mixing in more and more of the reddish rust paint. In the same manner, also the blue parts get polished up. First, I'm using the Prussian blue base color. Then I'm using lighter versions of it that I created by mixing in some of the off-white. The metal parts are painted with the original light grey, highlighted with a mixture out of this grey and some off-white. Using a mixture out of the off-white and some brown, I am now highlighting the fur parts. Finally, I'm using some rust color mixed with a small amount of orange to paint the raised details on the shoulder belt. To prepare the base, I'm going to paint it with a dark brown color. Then I'm using a reddish texture paint that has tiny grains of sand in it, and when it dries, it also shrinks and creates some cracks in the ground. But since I'm applying just a thin layer of this stuff, the crackling effect will hardly show up. Off camera, I used a quick shade strong tone also on the base to create some shadows there. And now I'm going to give the ground a more natural look by applying some pigments. That's just dry paint in powdery consistency that can easily be applied using a slightly moistened brush. As for the rim of the base, I'm painting it with a yellowish brown color. When the first coat will be dry, I'll apply a second one to achieve an even look without patches. To complete the base, some nice grass and flower tufts shouldn't be missing. I'm going to use a spring green type, a more dried out yellowish type, and also a tuft with little yellow flowers. All those tufts can be glued onto the base using Mod Podge or some other regular PVA glue. Finally, when the miniature have had the time to dry completely, it can be sealed up using some matte varnish. And that's the final result. You may notice that I off camera painted the eyes using the off-white and a dark bluish grey for the pupils. That's a very delicate step, and most of the time I'm not very successful with it when painting it with the camera close by. But in theory it's just painting a small white line into the eye socket and then applying the pupil with the darker color. And with this picture of our marksman alongside with some of the machines, I conclude this video. If you liked it, please come round and check for the next ones. For now, I'd like to wish you a good day.